Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another Activist Around the World. And Anney, you and I are going back and forth about the name still, because, I still can't settle on what I want to call this segment. Maybe we should just call it Feminist Around the World, because it's not necessarily like they would title themselves activists, even though whatever they do probably could be considered activism. So maybe we'll do it Feminist Around the World, so that doesn't tie us down too hard. What do you think?
I think it's hilarious that I was with you when you had this idea.
Yes.
And I'm like, why did this not come earlier? I don't know why we didn't think about it.
That seems to make the most sense. But yeah, so if we start calling it that we just had the brainstorm 2 years after the fact.
Yes. This
has been a long journey, apparently. And it's February. And I hate that month because I can't say the word, not because I hate the month necessarily, but in this month, it is Black History Month. And though we want to make sure that we are always talking about the activism and advocacy from the Black community and of the Black community all year round, we definitely want to talk and celebrate about the change makers today. So yes, we celebrate this month, but yes, we think it should be all year long. So we've not pinned down to being like the shortest of the month. It seems very racist. But we're just going to leave it there, I guess. Just leave it there. Before we start, Anney, did you ever do the design classes, or I think it was called industrial arts in my school, like making the bridges out of the sticks or trying to design your own roller coaster?
Oh, yeah. We actually usually did that in just science classes. I think in 5th grade, we did the roller coaster, which I loved because I love roller coasters. We did the designing bridges one, and I believe I've told this story before, but I have a lot of trauma around it and glue, and I will never, ever not be able to think of glue in this negative sense because of that experience. We also did the one where you had to design out of straws something to drop an egg off of a roof and see if you could protect the egg. We had to make cars and see how far they could go. Which that fell apart on me as well. It was a good idea. The follow through wasn't there.
Amazing.
Yeah, those are the big ones that are coming to mind.
Yeah. So that was a whole elective for our high school, and I took it. And all those things sound very familiar. We had the bridge that we had to test out. I think mine did pretty well. The roller coaster, mine was not. I had like these big ideas, did not pan out. We did like an airplane thing as well. And my brilliant idea was to wad it into a piece of paper and throw it. And I won. They accepted it.
Hey, that's pretty good.
I had to do what I had to do. Well, today we're actually talking about Oscar winner, designer, and architect Hannah Beachler. And though it's usually Eves who brings us the feminist first, we are doing one ourselves because, as you all know, we love to give flowers to those who are still around to receive them, and we're going to do so.
Yes, and Beachler was a first for several categories. The first African-American to be nominated for the Academy Award for Production Design, the first African-American to win that award, and the first woman and person of color to work as a production designer on a Marvel superhero film. Beachler, you might say, was born for this. Her parents were an architect and an interior designer, and she was no stranger to the design and art world. As she attended the University of Cincinnati studying and graduating for fashion design, and then she went on to Wright State University to study film.
And in a 2016 interview with Filmmaker magazine, when she was asked about her love for the movies, Beachler said, "I grew up in Centerville, Ohio. All I did was watch movies. I would go inside of the TV and that was it. I wouldn't even hear anybody talking to me. My dad was an architect and he built the house we grew up in. My mom was an interior designer and my aunt was an artist. So I was always around creative forces." And her parents' influences has always stayed with her. In another interview, she talked about her father's words about creating. I'd say to him, "Dad, I want you to design the house that I'll live in when I'm older." He would always tell me, "I can't design that until I understand where it is, until I understand the land it's going to sit on." And being young, I was like, "You really won't design me a house?" But as I've gotten older, I've come to understand what he meant. You can't see anything until you understand where it lives.
And it is something that has stayed with her in her very successful career. In 2013, Buechler did her first collaboration with director Ryan Coogler on Fruitvale Station, which led to her continued work with Coogler for Creed and both of the Black Panther films. Her inspiration for different films was unique for every movie. Her work and design for Miles Ahead, a drama based on Miles Davis, was all set with no stage shots and inspired by a few silent film shots. And it's insights like that that has really made her a standout in her field.
Right. But being one of the few Black women in the field has brought on some obstacles. In her recent interview with Architectural Digest, she says, "The biggest obstacle was proving that I was capable of handling any size department and holding the vision of the film simultaneously, making sure that both sides, management and creative, were at 100% at all times, all while trying to make a name for myself outside of New Orleans. Also, being a Black woman in a space where there were no Black people and very few women was a huge challenge. When the stakes are high, the stress is immeasurable, and you just push through the naysayers and concentrate on the people who are creatively like-minded and supportive, who allow you to be yourself with no caveats and to be as creative as your imagination will allow." And yeah, she's doing exactly that. In another interview from 2015, she was asked about her process and how she even begins. And she said, "The first step in any of it for me is sitting down with the script and connecting. I've got to be able to connect to the script. And then, the filmmakers as well. With that, I'll pretty much do a deck or a lookbook, and depending on the film and how big the presentation is, obviously. That sort of is like what fell out of my head as I read the script and then the notes that I took. And this is what I saw. My first initial reaction to that."
Her hard work and imagination have been seen in her productions, including in the recent film Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And for her process in creating the beautiful lands of both Wakanda and Tolokan, she talks about the importance of using not only the history of the lands, but also the folklore and the legend, which she applied for the underwater world based on the underworld realms of the Aztec codices. And all of her work has been noticed. Alongside her 2019 Academy Award for Black Panther, she has received the Hollywood Film Awards, Saturn Awards, Critics' Choice Awards, ADG Award for her work in the production design for Beyoncé's Lemonade, and many more.
Yeah. And in that same Architectural Digest interview, Buechler was asked what advice she would give to the BIPOC community who are interested in design. And she says, research, research, research. If there's something you want to do in design, no matter what it is, use your drive and resourcefulness to get there. Put yourself out there. Write an email or a letter to someone you admire in the field. Talk to people. Go to events. Dream big. Take risks. Be yourself. Don't put a time limit on your dreams. I didn't get Fruitvale Station until I was 42 years old, and I didn't win an Oscar until I was 49 years old. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. That's such a great quote. I also love how she's like, I didn't win an Oscar till I was 49. It's like not that old, but I love it.
Like everybody could.
But yes, amazing, amazing work. And I've enjoyed it. And I can't wait to see what else she does.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very exciting. So, as always, I'm sure we'll have an update in the future about what she's up to. But in the meantime, if you have any suggestions, listeners, for someone we should talk about on this segment, whatever we will call it, please let us know. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at MomStuffPodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I've Never Told You. Thanks, as always, to our super producer, Christina.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.